Well, Clement is with us with the papers, international papers. This time, of course, North Korea dominating them, really, Clement. I was just bringing you that news just a few seconds ago. North Korea saying it will launch thousands-fold revenge against the US. This is after the adoption of tough UN sanctions, isn't it?
That's right. That's right. And this story is on the front page of the Korea Times this morning. The UN imposes new sanctions on North Korea. The Korea Times hails the sanctions as a step in the right direction, but says they fail to dispel doubts. The paper writes that it will take time before the sanctions have a financial impact on the country, and says it is regretful that an oil embargo was not included in the sanctions due to objections from China and Russia. The Guardian, meanwhile, says that the UN vote shows the system is working, with all major countries, including China, voting in favour of sanctions at a time, I quote, when the trend seems to be towards breaking up rather than coming together.
Now, Clement's found that China's actually drawn praise, it seems, from international observers. Beijing perhaps finally using its influence to try to find a peaceful solution to the North Korean missile crisis. What about the Chinese papers, though, Clement? How are they reacting?
Well, the Chinese press is somewhat divided. China Daily says that while sanctions are needed to put pressure on Pyongyang, they will not be enough to achieve a lasting settlement of the nuclear issue. The paper argues that all parties must come back to the negotiating table and talk to each other, and China Daily is actually critical of the US's role in the region, saying it must stop its military drills on South Korean soil to prevent any further escalation of the conflict.
So Beijing then perhaps seeing itself as a mediator here, but is Pyongyang willing to cooperate?
Well, that's not yet clear. North Korea has proven to be an unpredictable ally for Beijing. And I've got this cartoon here for you from the South China Morning Post. You see here Kim Jong-un, China's urging calm, and the North Korean leader says calm, better call an interpreter.
Nicely put. Let's move on to Venezuela. Officials there saying they've brought under control an uprising against President Nicolas Maduro. This was at a military base in the city of Valencia. Maduro and his supporters say it was a coup attempt. Critics say those men were rising against tyranny. How are the papers reacting then?
Well, Spanish paper El Mundo is saying this morning that Nicolas Maduro is pushing Venezuela to the brink of civil war. Violence is never a solution, the paper writes, but the uprising shows that Maduro's recent decisions have divided not only Venezuela's society, but also its military. And this, El Mundo writes, is very dangerous, and it could further escalate tensions in the country.
Yeah, there aren't really many options left, are there, for the opposition now to try and defeat the president, really?
That's right. According to the Financial Times, a key challenge now for the opposition is to decide whether to participate in the upcoming regional elections. If they do run, Maduro may cancel them for fear of losing the elections. If they don't run, however, then Maduro's party will be the only party running, and will have an opportunity to further tighten its grip on power.
And last story from Clement. We're going to Iran for this one. Several MPs, they've come under fire for actually taking selfies with the European Union's top diplomat. This is Federica Mogherini, isn't it?
That's right. Federica Mogherini was in Tehran for President Hassan Rouhani's inauguration on Saturday, and she found herself the unlikely centre of attention. You can see her surrounded by several male MPs taking photos, and Mogherini looking somewhat embarrassed. Many social media users have criticised the MPs, calling their strange behaviour humiliating and embarrassing for the nation. Some saying they look like the seven dwarfs preying on Snow White. One senior advisor to the president even called it self-surrender to the West, suggesting that all MPs undergo a training course on codes of conduct and universal moral values.
Excellent stuff. Just before you go, Clement, I've got a question for you. When it comes to going on holiday, are you more of a fishing type of guy, or do you prefer the tranquility of a golf course?
Well, I guess it all comes down to who I'd go with, and actually, you know, sometimes I think it's probably best to go on your own. The Kremlin has released pictures of Russian President Vladimir Putin fishing and sunbathing bare-chested in Siberia.
You weren't with him, though, were you?
I wasn't.
No, OK, just checking.
US President Donald Trump, meanwhile, took a different approach to what he said was not a vacation. He's currently in New Jersey, staying at one of his golf clubs, and Unfortunately, well, you can't see any pictures here, but as you can imagine, when Trump gets sporty, he doesn't quite match Putin's muscular marvel. But who knows, the two leaders will perhaps keep in touch this over the summer. Just look at this cartoon from the Washington Post. It's a postcard from Trump to Putin. Wish you were here. And even Donald Trump Jr. has signed the postcard.
How sweet. Hello. I don't know why I've got an image now of Clement, Vladimir Putin and several fish on holiday together. I'm not quite sure why. Anyway, thank you very much. Clement with the papers on France 24 and Delana with business and the very latest